Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. Today, I've got Mr. Andrew Simmons with me, aka Captain Andrew. We are going to be going through the new 4th edition Maggotkin of Nurgle. I am really, really hyped for this. I love this book.
I am as well. My Nurgle have been in a box, on a shelf, in a storage unit for the past nearly 4 years.
Yeah.
And because how they were designed for 3rd edition wasn't very jiving with my playstyle. And also at
Yeah.
that time I was looking for something different. But with all the changes that we've seen already, I am very excited to talk about them today.
Yeah. I feel like this is just going to be a really fun army to play. I have no idea how to gauge competitiveness on any of this yet, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and some things have roles that didn't really have a good role before. So
Yep. Lots of packages and tools that we'll talk about as we. Again, I'm not the most competitive guy, but
yeah,
I know I can get a pretty good read on stuff. But
yeah,
I'll rephrase it this way: I don't know how to use the tools, but I can recognize the tools.
yeah. So let's kick it off with the battle traits. So once per turn per army, at the end of any turn, you pick one of the following effects. You infect something, you give the diseased keyword to an enemy unit that is in combat with one of your units. You can spread, you can pick a diseased unit and have every other enemy unit that is within combat range of that unit also get disease. And then mutate, if all of the enemy units on the battlefield are diseased, they all get one mortal wound. And you do this every turn.
Yep. At the end of every turn, so twice a battle round.
Yep. And then we also have Racked with Disease, which we also do at the end of every turn. You roll a d3 on every diseased enemy unit, and on a 2-up, you inflict that amount of mortal damage on the unit.
Yep.
So this is a lot cleaner than the old disease mechanic.
Absolutely. And the disease mechanic was probably the reason why I shelved the army, having to track my opponent's models, looking at my spicy sixes to hit, and then count. It's not just a token that you can throw on, which we now have that. It was a token that you then also had to count. And I have this memory of there's an RTT or GT I was at, and there's this player playing Nurgle with an abacus. And he had he marked at the row with the unit and then would move the abacus with how many disease points. And seeing that, I was like, this isn't for me.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a really cleaned up way. And yeah, something to just kind of note, the rule with the mortal wounds, how it's written here. So that's it's a D3 2-up. So on the dice, you're looking for a 3-up, but then you're causing 2 to 3 mortal wounds, maybe more, depending on your sub-allegiance.
Yep. And I just really, the thing that my initial thought on this is that this is extremely dangerous to smaller heroes and small units. Because if they don't have a lot of wounds, they get disease, they're going to die real quick.
Yeah.
Like you disease, because you can disease a unit with Blessed by the Plague Father and then trigger Racked with Disease to roll damage on them.
Yep, that's the mechanic of it, and which I really enjoy that. And I actually got a practice game in last night, and it was really kind of clean because I had to explain this to my opponent. It's like I have 2 end of phase abilities. The first one, I have a choice of 3 things, which is pick something in combat with and give them some disease. Pick something that's already diseased and kind of explode. Because if you read it, it's every unit that's surrounding that unit. So you could like tag one thing in turn at the top of turn 1, and then at the bottom of turn 1, if say it's his character surrounding his fellow friends, all of his friends now get diseased, and then you roll, and you're not plinking 1 damage here and there. You're getting that big 2, that big 3.
Yep.
And then say you've diseased everything, you just pick option 3 and just you get 1 mortal wound in addition to that roll.
Yep. And then we still have the same old ability that units that have the disease keyword can use healing to get rid of the disease.
Yep.
So,
which with heroic recovery out of the game, healing is far and few between.
well, you can rally any unit. And when you rally something with multiple wounds, you heal it.
Mm-hmm. And that costs you a CP. So you're kind of trading a resource.
Yeah. But it's something that everybody has access to for every one of their units.
That's true. Which I think is really fair. And I think it's great for the army composition. It's great. I think from the opponent side, I think it's pretty clear once you kind of get through one battle round with it.
Yeah.
Because, it was just a nightmare, the previous disease mechanic of explaining it to your opponent, tracking it yourself. And we don't got to talk about it anymore. It's done.
Yeah. All right. Our battle formations. I feel like all 4 of these are useful. Like, I like all 4 of these. I want to play all 4 of these and like build lists around them. Taliban, it increases the amount of mortal damage inflicted by racked with disease. That's the all the diseased units on a 2-up getting D3 mortal damage on them. This adds 1 to that, so it's D3 plus 1. But it is, if any, so if you fail the roll, I believe that means you're still getting 0.
Correct. So instead of doing 2 and 3, you're knocking them 3 and 4 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yep. Nurgle's Menagerie, you set up a second Feculent Gnarl Maw at the start of the game, which is also awesome with what the Gnarl Maw does now. It also is a disease vector, and it's not just spreading disease with the Gifts of the Plaguefather ability. It has its own separate ability that's spreading disease, so it's an extra source of disease. And we'll get to that. It's at the end. I don't know why they always put that at the end, but
yeah.
All right. Plague Cyst. Basically, this is the same as Blight. What was it? Blessed Sons in the last book.
Yep.
Except instead of disease, now it's mortal damage on 5s.
More mortals.
Yep. And it's only for your Rotbringers. However, your Blight Kings are 3 wounds each. So on average, every Blight King that goes down is going to do a mortal damage to the enemy. So that's not bad. I think that is one that you have to build heavy into the Rotbringers to get good value out of. And then we got our Affliction Cyst, which you get to deploy 2 of your Maggotkin of Nurgle units that have the fly keyword, and in your movement phase, you can set them up on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So very much like what this was, or the not Affliction Cyst was Drowned Men was in the last book.
Yep, it was a pregame move, and now it's a uniquely a so you'll set up your units in your deployment phase, and then this is an ability that's within the deployment phase. So then basically you'll set your guys up, you'll see what your opponent does, and then you can choose to use this ability. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. A lot of this, and you'll see it as we go throughout the rest of the battle tome, or what we're looking at, is a lot of callbacks. Like, we've seen Taliban, the Menagerie, the Cysts. We've seen this since first edition. So I really have been enjoying reading the flavor text and just like refinding the things I fell in love with, because this is one of my favorite armies.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used the Affliction Cyst in my practice game because I thought it was a lot of value, because something that we're one of the balances to our army is we're not very fast. So this allows you to get that little jump of movement, or you can be really aggressive with it and just move up and swamp your opponent, which we've seen the fly spam list before. So you can rock up with either Plague Drones or the character, the Lord of Affliction, and the unit. So you kind of get an option there. You can bring up 12 Plague Drones and just wall off your opponent. You can do what I was doing, and I had 4 of the Lords and the Lord of Affliction, and just had them tag teaming together. Does a really good power pair, which we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
And then something I just want to make sure, I think you said it as well. So the Plague Cyst calls out Ratbringers, but the Taliban, which used to be only demons, is now everything.
Yeah. Because all it's doing is affecting the rat with the battle trait, not like the units.
Yeah, which is a lot of value. And I think all 4 of these are all really powerful if you build into any of them.
Yeah. And the other thing I think worth mentioning on the Affliction Cyst is that it's any Maggotkin unit that has the fly keyword, not just Poscoil Blight Lords and the Lord of Afflictions. It's also going to be your Plague Drones.
Which lost their shooting attack, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there because I think they're great now.
I think they're incredible. Their durability, and we'll get there.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see a reason to do all of these. And I think it's going to be a lot of experimenting to see what the best way to go about it is. All right. Up next, our heroic traits. Gift of Verbal Frenzy. You add 1 inch to the move characteristic of friendly Maggotkin that do not have the fly keyword that are wholly within 12 inches of this unit at the start of their move. That's not bad. This army desperately needs to move faster.
Yeah, it solves one of our problems, which is actually, so these are the heroic traits that go onto your heroes. Doesn't necessarily have to be the general anymore, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I really enjoyed it because I had this little castle of dudes and now they're all movement 5, which was pretty nice.
All right. Grandfather's Blessing. At the end of any turn, the unit or the hero can heal D6 if they're in combat with a diseased enemy unit. However, that's basically just that can be all the time because you can throw the disease onto the unit first at the end of the turn and then trigger this ability.
Yep.
So you always have access to that heal D6, and it's every turn.
Yep. And
that's a lot.
And we have some very thick boys. We have the Lord of Affliction with his 8 wounds, the Guo with, I'm pretty sure, more than 10. So there's pretty good.
One is at 20 now, and Rodigus is at 22, and the Maggotkin is at 25.
Yep. We have some really great characters. Just make a note that it can't be on a named character.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Guo being 20 wounds.
Yep.
It's not going anywhere.
And then the Overpowering Stench. This basically does the same thing as it did previously. When your opponent declares a command, when they're in combat with this unit, you roll a die on a 5-up. The command has no effect, but the command still counts as having been issued, and the command point is spent.
Yeah, it's really good. And with the economy of command points that we have now in this edition, really great.
Yeah, one of the things I've been noticing, maybe it's just the armies that I've looked at so far, there's not a lot of ways to get extra command points or free commands or anything like that. There's a lot of ways to shut them down, though.
I think there's none. And I think that was in one of the designer commentary, is they eliminated any ability to generate CP.
Yeah.
Because I haven't found them yet, but that could change.
That's going to make Bone Reapers really interesting. I wonder what they do now.
They're not fun. That's who I was fighting in my practice game.
All right. Well, I guess we'll find out about that tomorrow with the rest of the regular plebs out here that haven't had that preview access,
but
or haven't seen all the leaks.
Yeah, controlling command points, controlling control score, which we'll also see in our book as well coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, the artifacts are next.
Yeah, artifacts. The Wither Stave is completely different. So when that hero gets charged, you roll a die on a 4-up. The charging unit strikes last. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
It's just that's hard to like see how you're going to set up to use that. It's more of just like a deterrent to your opponent charging you.
No, and notably, this was a demon-only artifact before, but now it's for
Yep.
everybody. So.
Yep. The Rustfang is still what it has been for a while now. Once per game, pick a enemy unit or an enemy hero in combat with you, and you subtract 1 to save rolls for that target for the rest of the battle.
Yep.
Man, do I miss the 2nd edition book where you could do that every turn.
and it was stackable, yeah.
And it was any unit. It wasn't just a hero. That was so rude.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we got the Carrion Dirge. Once per battle in the hero phase, you can pick up to 3 enemy units within 12 inches and subtract 3 from each target's control score for the rest of the turn.
Yep.
That could be... There's a lot of situations that will be devastating. That's just like, that objective is mine now. Or because it's 3 different enemy units at 12-inch range, especially if this is on like a Great Unclean one with that huge base, you could clear out like 2 objectives with this.
Yep, and just key note, it is any hero phase, so you can pop this in your opponent's hero phase.
Yeah, that is one of those things that I have been noticing, is like to carefully notice what the timing triggers on these things are, because a lot of things will let you do it in your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
There's so much interactivity in this edition. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just kind of like a brief overview. I think, again, these are all great artifacts. 2 of them being once per game or once per battle. Same thing, I guess. Made me lean towards the Wither Stave. But like, I think of our 2 once per battles, they're both really powerful. And like, that's something that you'll hear that a lot of in the discourse of as people are reviewing and talking about their experiences. These once per game abilities have to really be worth it to take it, and that this one isn't on a dice roll, and this is a primary score swinging event. I think the Dirge is a really powerful tool in the right player's hands.
Yeah, and the thing to remember with the Rustfang as well is the number of heroes that are on monsters. When you have some huge thing and you want to try and take it down, having -1 to all of their save rolls is huge.
Yeah, especially since our army doesn't have a lot of rend. We do a significant amount of mortal wounds, but this is something that can help us push the high save characteristics that we're going to see.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Stormcast.
Yeah. Oh, and Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah. There's a lot. Like, it's a very meta pick for sure.
Yeah. All right. So our spell lore, the lore of Malignance. All 3 spells cast on a 7.
Yeah, a lot of returning favorites.
Yep. However, everything does different stuff. Well, actually, not quite different stuff, but similar stuff. This one's completely different, though. Fleshy Abundance. This is our unlimited spell, so all of the wizards in your army can cast this spell once a turn.
I did not notice that it had that keyword.
That makes this stupid. So it casts on a 7. You pick one of your friendly Maggotkin units wholly within 12 inches to be the target. If the unit is damaged, you heal D3. If the target is not damaged, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target that unit until the start of your next turn. Also, important on this does not say combat attacks. This is also shooting.
That's really awesome. I'm glad you noted the unlimited, because like you can heal them and then hit them again with this to then give them that benefit. That's really cool.
Yeah. Or just spread out that -1 to wound on multiple units.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's other sources of -1 to hit as well. So -1 to hit and -1 to wound with a 5-up ward save is really hard to shift. Especially with the number of things I've been noticing now in this edition that are on like a 4 to wound. Like 4 to wound is really common now.
Oh, yeah.
All right, up next, the Cloying Quagmire, 18-inch range, targets an invisible enemy unit. You have that unit's move characteristic until the start of your next turn. If the save characteristic is 3 up or better, you also subtract 1 from their run and charge rolls until the start of your next turn.
Yep, and this is, again, targeting certain profiles that we will struggle with, profiles that have a really good save. And the half movement, if people forget the Be'lakor of old, or not the Be'lakor, the Legion of the Dark Prince, having movement is significant.
Yeah, it's brutal. All right, and then we have the Magnificent Buboes. It has an 18-inch range, and it targets an enemy hero that is visible until the start of your next turn. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target, and subtract 1 from casting, chanting, unbinding, banishment, and casting, chanting, banishment, and unbinding rolls. Mm-hmm. This is very good as well. Again, for that same reason that a lot of heroes are also monsters.
Yeah, and something I just want to make sure, I'm sure you've covered it already, but when you select this spell lore, you're taking all 3, or you have access to all 3 of these. So
all 3 on all of your wizards.
This spell is very situational, but it's in your pocket for when it comes up, which is something that I know I'm not used to yet in this edition.
Yeah,
a lot of people are going to have their whole spell book available to them, which is going to be really cool. A lot more options.
And that's why the unlimited spells are also so valuable. If your spell lore needs to have a really good unlimited spell, I think.
Yeah.
All right. We do not have a prayer lore, but we do have a priest, which we'll get to.
We do. And something that was, I think it's been said, there are no more generic prayer or spell lores either in the core rules. So
there's no more Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt, any of that stuff.
Even though there are 2 examples, those are not existing.
Yep.
Yeah, so my opponent was really like, he was upset for me on my behalf. He's like, wait, you don't have any prayers? I was like, just my War Scroll, which is a pretty good one, but that's the one.
Yep. All right, so into War Scrolls, and let me just pop open points real quick here.
I have that as to the side as well.
Yeah. So Rodigus is a flat 500 points. He is a big boy. 22 moons. The first thing that jumped out at me is that this and the Great Unclean One are moving 6 now.
That is a change for sure, because it used to be 4.
Upgrade.
If I remember.
Yeah, they used to be 4. Like a 50% movement increase is a lot. His offensive profile is solid. I think that's like he's going to do some work, but I feel like his melee profile is like not entirely the thing that you take him for. His spell, Deluge of Nurgle, is crazy. But the first thing I think that we need to look at to keep in mind is Bringer of Plenty. He has +1 to cast,
which those are
all of his spells, and he's Wizard 2, so he can cast 2 spells a turn.
Yep, and that's hard to find. A lot of these spell modifiers are limited now as it is right now.
Yep. So it casts on an 8, but it's really on a 7 because of Bringer of Plenty. So it targets every diseased enemy unit on the battlefield and every Maggotkin unit on the battlefield that is in combat with an enemy diseased unit. Then you roll a d3 for each target. On a 2-up, if it's an enemy unit, you inflict mortal damage equal to the roll. If it's a friendly unit, you heal equal to the roll. This spell is insane.
It is. And a common phrase, maybe not so much in our game, is ramping. So like this isn't going to be your turn 1 spell because you got to get things diseased first before it pops off. But once you get stuck in, and how I want to say this is like this spell really goes into the play style of the army. Like we're going to walk in the middle. We're going to take some hits. You're going to party with us in the middle. And then we're going to start ticking that clock and start doing our damage.
Just
which it's very thematic.
Yeah, just the sheer amount of like spreading mortal damage all over the board, regardless of being in range of stuff, is so good. Like there is no range on this spell. It's the whole.
It's always been that way. It's that visibility.
Yep.
So again, another throwback to when Rodigus revealed itself many moons ago.
All right, and then he's got a rampage, the mountains of loathsome flesh. It goes off on a 3-up. You pick an enemy unit within an inch to be the target, and you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For every 5-up, it inflicts a mortal damage on the target.
Yep, it's a horde clearing, kind of generic, but it's extra damage and it's more mortal wounds.
Yep, it's interesting because it's way more effective on like horde infantry. Man, it's going to take out a lot of them though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love this. The other thing too to note is that everything in the army has a 5-up ward. There's no battle trait for it anymore. It's just in the keywords on everything.
Yep.
And I did go through. It is on every single war scroll, including the Feculent Narwhal.
Yes, it is.
Which is beautiful.
It's disgustingly resilient, as it always should be.
Yep. All right. Up next, we got the Great Unclean One. And immediately, after I read this war scroll, I'm like, I don't know if I want Rodigus or a Great Unclean One more. And the
Why
Great
not
Unclean
both?
Well, I will tell you why not both.
because of the points?
Because this one is 480 points.
Yeah.
So effectively the same.
Yeah.
His Noxious Bile is a shoot in combat, which is great because you can't ordinarily shoot when you're in combat anymore. D3 plus 3 attacks, 3s, 2s, Ren 2, 2 damage.
Solid.
That is just like some random extra damage all the time. It does way more damage than you would think it does. Like that was always like throughout 3rd edition when the attacks were just a D6 with basically the same attack profile.
Yep.
It was like he would just vomit on somebody and do a whole bunch of damage and be like, what the hell just happened? I didn't even know he had a shooting attack.
Yep. No, I would Overwatch or Covering Fire, or whatever we're calling it nowadays, with his Noxious Bile, which, again, there's not a lot of shooting in the list, but this is one of those sources of additional damage.
Yep.
But it's not the only thing he does.
Yep.
Because one of the big changes for all of the Chaos armies is how do we summon now?
Yep. And he's got his Colossal Blighted Weapons, 4 attacks, 3s, 2s, 2 rend, 4 damage. I love that he doesn't have like all of these different profile combinations anymore, that it's just model him how you like him and throw him on the table and they all do the same thing.
Yep. I can use my Forge World one with the big resin sword.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's also a wizard too.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have a bonus to cast though. The Locus of Nurgle is very powerful.
Yeah.
So in your movement phase, you roll a die. On a 4-up, you set up a replacement unit of a unit that has been destroyed that had 3 or more models in it. And set up a replacement unit with half the number of models, wholly within 12 of this unit and more than 9 outside of all enemies. So this is recursion on all of your demons.
Yeah. And it's how we summon, which a lot of players I've talked with are really excited. This is how Chaos armies are going to be. It's like you just bring the army you're playing with. There's no sideboard. It's just what you got. And one of those things I mentioned earlier was about the plague drones. So if you bring all 12 of your boys, because you can reinforce them, move them with the affliction cyst, then just blocking your opponent, and then when they finally fight through them on a 4-up, you're bringing 3 to 6 back because you get to roll every movement phase, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can't summon a unit that's already been summoned. I'm pretty sure that's a core rule. But yeah, it's
you can't replace a unit that's already been replaced once.
But yeah, 50% chance to bring that many more wounds back after they've just locked your opponent up is gonna be it's gonna be fun. Or fun for me, but
right. His spell, Plague Wind, casts on a 7. Range of 12, you pick an enemy unit, and it just hands out disease. Here you go. That unit becomes diseased.
yep, and importantly it happens in the hero phase. So we get to then at the end of the turn add more disease.
Yes. Or just do damage to stuff.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of abilities in this that spread extra disease around. So having that could be pretty clutch in some situations.
Absolutely.
And then he's got his Rampage, Bloated with Corruption. You pick 3 enemy units that he's in combat with. Roll a d3 for each. 2 up, inflict mortal damage equal to the roll. That's like their new favorite mechanic.
Which I think it's a really clean way to do it. And
yeah.
I'm really excited that AOS is like the first GW game to use it. Because, or at least to my knowledge, maybe it's been used in other game systems. But I can see this. One of those, you always kind of hear about this, is like, you'll see some rules in 40K get moved over here, and then we'll try some new stuff, and then they'll take some of those rules. It's that cross-pollination. And I really hope to see this moving forward in other GW games, because I think this is a really clean way to manipulate the D6, which is, from a game writing perspective, is kind of the limitation of our game, because we don't use D20s or D12s. It's just a D6. So this is another way to use our D6, which I think is really awesome.
And it kills a die roll in the sequence. Right?
It's just cleans it up.
All right. Up next, the Poxbringer. This guy is also a wizard. I think this is the scroll in this army that I am least excited about. Because all he does is be a wizard, and he has that like double fight ability. Like if he charges in and he fights, then a unit of Plaguebearers that are next to him also get to fight.
Yep.
And you add 1 to their hit rolls.
I don't disagree. He's pretty vanilla, but like a double activation with a few buffs can be a thing. Depends on the points. You could just be something to just add in here and there. But yeah, because like he's no longer the one little dude you summon and then Blizzard with him. It's I like his role now. He's very distinct.
Yep, he does do stuff now. I loved summoning him in and giving him Blizzard. That was so.
Fun. That was great. So much fun.
Yeah, the number of times I did that, and my opponent was like, "Wait, you can do that?" I'm like,
yes, we can. But yeah, it's like I agree. It's a little vanilla, but like that's not bad. Vanilla is a great flavor, and you kind of need that to balance it out.
Yeah. I think this War Scroll gets like most improved player. This is such a great scroll now, and I believe he's still just 200 points. 150. He's 150 now.
Yep.
Holy Jesus.
150, and it's one of my clubmates is very excited to be running him soon.
Oh, I feel like at least for a while he's going to be in every list. Like he's just got to be. So if you have in your movement phase, if there are less than 3 friendly feculent Gnarlmaws on the battlefield, you can just set up another feculent Gnarlmaw within 12 inches of him and more than 3 inches from all enemy units, objectives, and terrain features. That's amazing for at least two important reasons. Number one, it spreads disease. And number 2, it gets in the way. Like you can just block lanes of movement with them.
And that's something I wanted to make sure we call out is the timing of this ability. So you get to move with Horticulus. You can run this guy right up the middle and then activate this ability and put a tree right in a choke point. You can make a funnel. There's a lot of in-game things you can do with setting up terrain later on. I don't have the rule exactly in front of me, but like maybe someone later can go back and check what keywords are on the faction terrain. Because I'm pretty sure impassable or what is now impassable is on there. So just putting in something in the way, like you said, is perfect. And it's if you don't take that sub-allegiance, you can do this twice in a game.
You can do this every turn.
Up to 3, yeah.
Up to 3, but the gnarl moths can also get killed.
That's true. So I completely forgot you can punch terrain.
And I'm just pulling up the gnarl maw real quick.
Yeah, it's not on its war scroll. It's going to be in the core rules, which I'm not trying to go through that PDF right now.
Yeah, but I just wanted to look at this real quick because I think this is also important.
Yeah, it's a power pair for sure.
Right. So you pop down a gnarl maw. It has to be outside of 3 inches of enemy units. But this riddled with disease ability, it's an enemy unit within 6 inches is the target. And then on a 4-up at the end of any turn, it hands out a disease.
Yep.
So you can, in your turn, in your movement phase, move up Horticulus, pop down a tree, and at the end of the turn, give an extra disease to that unit and then do damage to it.
I'm going to start making a list as we go through I haven't done this yet. Yep. How many ways can we trigger a disease? So this is a disease mechanic. We have Plague Wind already, and then we've seen it from our battle traits. So three ways so far.
Yeah, I think that's basically about it. I don't really think there's anything else that I saw.
No, we'll talk about the Rotmire when we get there. But yeah, that's it's not exactly spreading disease. It gives you an option when you use your battle trait.
Yeah.
I think it might just be these 3.
And then his Beast Handler ability, he can bring back slain Beasts of Nurgle on a 3-up.
Yeah, something you can't bring back with the Guo, which is notable.
Yeah. Yep. And Beasts are really... They're interesting. I feel like I need an FAQ on them to confirm what they do. But
oh, no. We'll get there. Yeah, I don't think I read it recently, but we'll get there.
Yeah. All right. Spoilpox Scrivener. This guy's a lot better now because Plaguebearers are a lot better now.
That's
I think he basically does the exact same thing he did in the previous book, except his counts are on a 2-up. They're not automatic. So tally the blows, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons, and recorded stamina, add 1 to save rolls for the target. So it just targets a unit of Plaguebearers, specifically wholly within 12 inches. This is once per turn in your hero phase. That is very interesting.
Yep, no, it's very flexible.
Yeah, like because you're going to be able to fight like 3 ranks deep now with Plaguebearers.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually be an offensive tool to a point.
Yep. No, you can buff them up for sure. Like there's a world where you just bring 1 of every demon and just see what happens because like it's a viable build now.
Yeah. And adding 1 to save is always good. There's not a ton of ways to buff saves in this game.
No, yeah, they removed a lot of save stacking for sure.
Yep. All right. Up next, my favorite buddy, Sloppy Boi Piper.
Howard's favorite buddy.
Yeah. So he triggers instead of in the hero phase like our counting buddy does. This guy does it at the start of a combat phase. He targets any demon, but he used to be everybody within 12. Now it's just 1 unit.
Mm-hmm.
Just 1 unit within 12. You roll a die on a 2-up. You use 1 of his 3 songs. A stabbing we will go, +1 to wound. Early one evening, my pustule was seeping. Ward rolls cannot be made for damage points inflicted by the target's combat attacks.
Incredible.
Yeah. And situational, but you have 3 options, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then my love is like a ripe fart. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units that target the unit. Now note, you also have a spell that can make them -1 to be wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your Spoilpox Scrivener that can give +1 to save to Plaguebearers. So you take a unit of, say, 20 Plaguebearers, you're -1 to hit them, -1 to wound them, and they've got now a 5-up save and a 5-up ward.
And you can also do an additional +1 to save. I thought. I don't know.
I don't know. I need to check if like all-out defense works that way anymore. I don't think it does.
No, it's probably still you can stack them, but what we're trying to get at is it's hard to find stackable saves anyways, and here we are. We can almost get there.
Yep. So
the only thing I want to say, and I'm really disappointed in this War Scroll for one particular reason.
Why is that?
I wish they had come up with new songs. He's been playing the same playlist for 4 years now. Can we get some new songs? I was really hoping they would do something cute.
These jams are the classics.
They are the classics, but you know the new generation, they want their new stuff.
And listen, this version of Early One Evening, My Pustule Was Seeping, and My Love Is Like a Ripe, Ripe Fart, these are both remixes.
Oh,
they are not the original.
They could be the remix. Yeah, this is like featuring Wiz Khalifa and all those other guys.
Yeah, you have like Little John screaming remix at the beginning of the track. It's great. Love it. Right. So this guy is also not expensive, and neither is your Spoilpox Scrivener. 110 points for Sloppity Bile Piper, 100 for Spoilpox Scrivener. Yep. These guys are super cheap.
Yep.
And do a lot of work for you.
Yep. And before we move on, you're looking at the points thing, right?
Yep.
Do you want to talk real quick about regiment options since we're on the page?
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, your mortal heroes let you put mortals in their regiment, and demons let you put demons in their regiment, except for your named guys and your Great Unclean One, basically.
Absolutely. So you can bring any Maggotkin of Nurgle units.
Yeah. Bloab, Great Unclean One. Let's see.
No, yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Rodigus and the Maggotkin.
Yep.
So yeah, it's all of your guys riding monsters or that are monsters.
Yeah. So it kind of keeps that essence. The demons still party together within the regiments, but we're sharing the Wither Stave, we're sharing the Taliban. It's kind of, I think it's really fun that they kept the good things and made I think it's great. I love the changes.
Yep. So two other interesting things to note here is that Lord of Blights and Lord of Plagues are only Rotbringer infantry. And then Lord of Afflictions is only Plague Drones and Puscoil Blight Lords.
Yep. And I was going to mention that when we got there, but if we're there already, also the Lord of Blights and Lord of Plagues in the notes section count as a Rotbringer Lord, which if you look at Gut Rot and the Harbinger, they're all the three brothers.
Yep.
They get to, so when say my Harbinger is leading a regiment, I can then add my Lord of Blights with him within the regiment.
Yep.
And that's unique to be able to add additional heroes to regiments. That's when you're looking at your points page, you want to make sure you kind of see where those are, because if you don't have that available to you, you have to take more regiments, which is more drops.
Yeah.
So just something to keep an eye on. So
yeah, it is a way to cut your drops down if that is something you're concerned about.
Yep.
And there are some things that care about what's in a regiment, which certainly is something to consider as well. All right. Up next, Nurglings. Love these guys. 5 attacks, 5s to hit, 5s to wound. No rend 1 damage, but crit auto wound now. And they still have their heal 3 at the end of every turn.
Yep.
6-up save, 5-up ward, 4 health each. I mean, what is not to love about these little guys?
Reinforce them. Bring Morbidex. The only thing that we lost was the deep strike, which was in itself kind of a weird deep strike anyways. But yeah, they kept all the resiliency, the tankiness, and they're just gonna get in the way and just like tickle your opponent and maybe do some damage, but spread disease for sure. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, and these guys are 110 points for 3.
Yeah.
They're super
A
cheap.
bargain.
Yeah, they're a bargain for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Now on to a War Scroll.
One of your favorites.
Using ability. Also, this must work the way I think it does because this is 150 points for this. Okay. 7 wounds. I'm sorry. Move 7, 8 health, 5 up save. 5 attacks, Force 3s, Rend 1, D3 damage. He's a companion, and he has a maximum control score of 1.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of limited in that regard. So, attention seekers. If this unit is not in combat, this is any charge phase, by the way, you can do this on the enemy turn. If this unit is not in combat, pick the closest enemy unit to it to be the target. If 2 or more enemy units are tied, pick for the closest, you just pick one. Then you roll a charge
roll. Yep.
At them. So this is an off-turn charge without a command point being spent. And then if he makes the charge, he inflicts D3 mortal damage on the target.
Yep. And as well as he flies, kind of flies. He can kind of move over a screen if you think of it that way. Yeah, no, I think you read it perfectly. I think it is how you feel it is. The one thing I just want to highlight that it is a core ability. Yeah. So when it's your charge phase, you can choose to do a normal charge or choose to do this special charge if you want to think of it that way. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The highlight is it's any charge phase, so you can do this in your opponent's charge phase.
Yeah, that is super.
And then the flyover, the mortal wounds, you can get in weird places. You can then disease something behind the screen that they weren't expecting, perhaps.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mechanics in there.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that I need an FAQ on.
Oh.
This is not a normal charge ability.
No, it's not.
Therefore, I believe you can run or retreat and then use this.
I
have to look at the wording in the core rules.
I'd have to reread the core rules, but
yeah,
they had retreat and charge in the last edition, if I remember. So that wouldn't surprise me if it was intentional. But you're not wrong. It could have some clarification text as an FAQ.
Yep. Or and at very least, they can retreat in one turn and then charge in your opponent's turn.
Yeah, at the worst, but it might be the best. You never know.
Yeah.
And that ping-ponging is what they used to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is that way. Like, that's what my gut's telling me is how that is. But yeah, you're right. It would be nice to have, like, show my opponent that GW says it's okay. But
yeah.
For sure.
And these guys are 150 points, which really makes me think that they can do that retreat and charge thing.
And you can't reinforce them because they're beasts, I think. So yeah, it's like you're just ping-ponging their fat base and just giving all the hugs and slobber kisses that you always want to.
So beautiful. So beautiful. They're going to do more damage than they did before, too. All right. Plague drones. Another unit that got a serious glow up.
Yes.
Their plague swords have crit mortals. Their flies, 6 attacks, force 3s, no rend, 1 damage. 8 move. They fly. They have a 5 up save and 5 health. The big thing is they can retreat and charge. So these guys are also going to be the ping pong around the battlefield and like get your opponent like tagged in combat in all of the places that they don't want to be tagged in combat.
Yeah. And I think moving or basically deep striking before the game, 12 of them is going to be a thing. And it might not be very fun for your opponent.
Yeah, good thing I own 12.
I think I'm at 15 right now.
Yep.
I was fortunate enough to pick up a bargain recently to round out some of my my the fly lords, because I never really bought into the spam list that was. But yeah, this I'm happy I got my drones, because that's what it's looking like. That's a move we can do.
Yep. Love it.
Might not be the best move, but it's a move.
Yep. And then our Plaguebearers.
A glow up.
Yeah, another glow up. So their move and all of that is the same as it ever was. 6-up save, 4 move, 2 health. And of course, the 5-up ward. They come in packs of 10 for 140 points. You subtract 1 from hit rolls that target them in the shooting phase. But their Plague Sword, 1 attack, force 3s, no rend, 1 damage. But crit mortal.
That's yeah.
So let's say you just have a unit of 10 of these guys, and you buff up their attacks with Spoilpox Scrivener. Now, in this edition, because everybody in combat range can make their attacks, you're going to get that whole unit of 10 in. So this unit is going to make 21 attacks doing crit mortals. So they're going to do 3 or 4 mortal damage, like right off the rip.
Off the rip, yep. As well as being able to take that punch, standing there spreading diseases. Like you just got to roll your charge roll and maybe move 5 inches with the command trait.
Yep. So this is going to be interesting. These guys, they used to just be a tar pit, and now they are more than a tar pit.
Yeah,
now they're a spiky tar pit.
Yeah, and there was a way to get them spiky, but there was like you had to do a spell, and it's just on the war scroll now. Like this is a tool that we had, but now it's just like it's sharpened up a little bit. If that's how I would describe it.
And a unit of 20 of these guys is going to be obnoxious.
And for a unit of 20, we are looking at 280 points, which is not. I think it's fair, especially when you consider I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me right now, but like you can look at the point per wound, but then also because they are the 6-up save, but the 5-up ward. But then that 6-up save isn't always what it's going to be if you bring the other supporting characters.
Yeah.
So 5-up, 5-up. Pretty good.
All right, the Maggotkin. Man, does this guy have a lot going on.
Yeah.
All right. So he's got Wizard 1, Move 6, 24 wounds with a 4-up save, control of 10. That's a big boy. His attacks, the Tentacle, 4 attacks, 3s, 2s, Rend 2, D3 plus 3 damage. Then we got the Maw, 3 attacks, 3s, 2s, Rend 2, 3 damage. And then the Scythe, 4 attacks, 3s, 3s, Rend 1, 2 damage. That is an insane amount of damage that this guy can put out in melee. Like, this, and he's 550 points.
Yep.
I feel like he's going to go up. He also subtracts 3 from the control scores of enemy units that he's in combat with. And he's going to spell, casts on a 6. You roll a number of dice equal to the target's health characteristic. And for each 5-up, you inflict 1 mortal damage on the target to a maximum of 7 mortal damage. So this is taking a big chunk off of monsters.
Oh, yeah. Which is, again, one of the things that we don't have all the tools to handle.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things.
Yep. But the big thing that this guy does, Blighted Stampede, it is a reaction when you declare a countercharge command for this unit. It's once per turn. You pick up to 2 friendly Maggotkin of Nurgle units wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target after the countercharge command for this unit has been resolved. If the unit charged, each of the targets immediately use the countercharge command in an order of your choosing without a command point being spent.
And just remind me, this is countercharge is one of the big 2 CP ones, right?
Yes. This is effectively giving you 4 extra command points.
Yep, that's a lot of value. Would be a shame if Catacrys rolled a 5 up on that.
I know. Or the other million things that
it's around, but yeah, this is the re-envisioning of it had this rule previously, and I think this is a really good way. It's capturing how it used to be. It's a very big swing if it pulls off. You got to spend the resource. It's not a freebie. You've also then got to roll the charge dice. So what I said earlier about the once per game stuff, like things that you spend a resource and then have to roll a dice for. Yep. But that payoff is, I think, significant enough to take that risk.
Yeah. I mean, I just love this.
Yeah.
This is, it was my favorite unit in the last book. It's probably my favorite unit in this book, too.
Well, can you fit him and a Guo, or do you think you'll have to pick one or the other?
Yes. I mean, let's look at this realistically for a minute. If we take him, he's 550 points. A Great Unclean one is 480. So that means we can have a list with the Maggotkin and 3 Great Unclean ones. Fini. 4 model army.
And why leave Rodriguez at home? Does he fit?
No, he wouldn't. He would put you over by 10 points.
Okay.
That's silly. I am so happy that exists. I'm going to definitely do that because why not?
I mean, it's just a re-envisioning of the thrice-fold defilement that we had.
Yep.
Well, you should report back on how that goes because
thrice-fold is back, baby.
Because he's a wizard 1, and then you have 6 other casts.
Yeah.
And remember that unlimited spell heals all your big bros.
Yeah, it does.
you can also take that command trait to also heal, I think. Or am I thinking something else?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. That could be the 4 Mega Gargants is a thing. Why not bring 4 big stinky boys?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a heal D6 is the heroic trait.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Yep. I didn't even see that in the Matrix, but
yeah,
I'm excited now. Because guess who owns 3 Guos?
Yep.
Yeah, that's sick as hell.
All right. Up next, Morbidex Twiceborn, up to 14 health. He moves 8. He's got a shooting attack that's not that meaningful. His scythe, 5 attacks, 3s, rend 1/2 damage. The maw and claws, 5 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 3 damage, and it's a companion weapon. Mm-hmm. So this guy is going to be swinging a lot of damage around. This guy is the one that is the Lord of Nurglings. Mm-hmm. So his passive ability, while any friendly Nurglings are within 12 inches of him, ignore the first damage point that would be allocated to each of those units each phase. So all of your Nurglings, just ignore the first damage every turn. In each phase. Each phase. So that is potentially a lot of damage it's preventing. And then you add 3 to their control scores.
Yeah. Which I just want to make a note for people who haven't really figured that out, that it does not mean each Nurgling counts as 4. It means if you have a unit of 3 Nurglings, you get 1, 2, 3, and then plus 3 to the score. So
yes,
clarifying that.
It's modifying the score, not the characteristic.
Absolutely.
All right. And Gigantic Nurglingkin. He heals half his damage, rounding up every at the end of every turn. And then, I mean, that is outrageously strong. I just have to say.
Yep. And I believe that's what he had.
Yeah, that's the same ability that he used to have. Then, once per turn in any combat phase, you can pick a friendly unit of Nurglings in combat range to be the target. Roll the die, 2 up. The target's melee weapons have crit mortal for the rest of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
That means that a unit of 6 Nurglings hanging out with him, that's going to roll 30 attacks. So it's going to average 5 mortal damage.
And that's
right?
the poopy little fingers.
Yup. With all their little razor sharp teeth.
Yep. And for 320 points, and unlocks a Rotbringer Lord for his regiment.
Yep. This guy is like, I don't know how good he's actually, like, all of his Nurgling stuff is actually going to be. But I'll try it. I've done it before. I'll do it again.
Like, I think it's going to be, as I said when we talked about the Nurglings, like, they're going to stick around and they're just going to be spreading diseases.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be, like, their shtick. Is, like, they want to, like, move block with them as best you can, try to tag things where you can, but just, you're more, well, he does add the control score, so they actually might be something you throw on a circle.
Yep.
Well, let's keep this rolling, because we have the other 2 guys. No, we have Loab, and then
Blowab is Bustab.
And then Orgats is like 3 scrolls later, but
yeah.
Let's just knock out all 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the same as Morbidex, except he gets 3 attacks on his scythe instead of 5. Mm-hmm. His spell is bananas.
Yep, he's a wizard.
Right? It casts on a 6. He's wizard 1. So you pick an enemy unit in 12 inches. Until the start of your next turn, each time you allocate any damage points by another friendly ability to the target, roll a die on a 4-up, allocate 1 damage to the target.
Yeah, it's just more damage.
Yep, it's just more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage. And it's every time any ability triggers damage. So the old version of this was once per phase. And I feel like this might end up needing errata for that, because this is going to end up being an awful lot of damage potentially.
And it says friendly ability, and the fight is an ability. So it's not like for every attack that gets through, it's just you add 1 more after everything's resolved.
Right. Okay. But then the disease procs it,
that is a friendly ability, yeah.
Yep. And your shooting does, and his rampage does, his demon flies, pick an enemy unit within 7 on a 4-up, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target, and subtract 1 from hit rolls for its combat attacks for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
So
it's a 4-up, but the last thing I'll call out on this is the persistence. This spell persists until your next turn. So that's a little gross.
Yep, that's just gonna keep on going. Was it you that sent me a list of all of the different ways that you can trigger Miasma of Pestilence? Somebody did.
Not me. But yeah, and his points, he is...
I think he's 320. Let's look. Yes, he's 320.
320, just like Morbidex. Okay.
Yep.
That's pretty good value. And he's a Wizard 1, Wizard 2. Wizard 1. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. Gut Rot Spume.
Like I said, do you want to skip to his brother, or do you just want to keep going down the line?
Let's just keep going down the line. It's easy enough.
Down the line. Here we go. One of my favorite guys, because...
So he can bring...
Yeah. The can I take this one?
Go right ahead. This is so beautiful now.
So the captain of the slime fleet. He haunts the oceans of the mortal realms, fighting alongside and transporting warriors that the Lord of Tentacles judges to share his aims. So when you are setting, so you're going to have Gut Rot. He's going to be leading a regiment, because you have to declare the regiment that he's leading. and I'm gonna remind you that Gut Rot can add a lord to his regiment, so you get 2 heroes in this package.
Sure can.
If you so choose. So when you're setting up him or them, whatever you want to think of it that way, the whole regiment gets to ride the ship, which then will deploy in your movement phase later.
Yes.
Which is really nice when you consider battle tactics, when you consider some shooting elements that you can bring along with him.
Yeah.
But one thing I really wanted to call out is a big change for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't pronounce his deployment ability, but so when you do deploy the slime fleet, it's
Yeah.
any movement phase, where for the past 8 years, chaos deep striking has always been your first movement phase.
Yep.
Finally, we can deploy in turn 2. I am so excited.
Yep.
Like, I don't need to come down turn 1. My opponent can't screen off the table and say, have fun deploying in your own deployment zone a turn later. So that's a big change I want to call out.
Yeah. And another important thing is that he can bring a Lord of Plagues in his regiment. Mm-hmm. And then Lord of Plagues gives +1 to charge to Blight Kings.
Oh, yeah. You can, like I said, you can give him a shooting package, or you can give him a punchy, like you said, a +1 to charge package. And what's great, the last thing to talk about Gut Rot is he's a duelist. So his Rot Pocked Axe, 5 attacks, 3/2, 1 damage 2, crit mortal. But if you don't hit the 6s on the hits, you're anti-hero +1 rend. So you're slapping 2 rend, 2 damage, and you might be slapping before your opponent because Mr. Tentacles over here has an ability called his Flailing Tentacles, where you pick an infantry hero that you're in combat with, and on a 3-up, that target has the strike blast applied. I love it. Like, there's so many things you can do with him. You can, like I said, I was using him to just deep strike some Rotmire to proc some abilities, and then they were scoring battle tactics. They were just in the backfield, just because, again, the thing I was trying to use in my list was the movement that we don't have. I was like, all right, let's use my Affliction Cyst. Let's use my +1 movement. Let's deep strike this just to get where I need to go with the movement that we're given, which I think is an incredible Wars roll. I'm really excited to be playing with them.
Yeah, this is really fun, really good. All right, Lord of Afflictions. His Fester Spike, +1 damage on the charge. Mm-hmm. Standard fly mount. He moves 8, 3-up save, 8 health, control 2. Vectors of Foulest Contagion. You can pick up to 3 enemy units in combat. In the combat phase, roll a d3 on a 2-up, deal amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. So, and that's every combat phase. It's not just when he charges. It is every combat phase.
Yep, he's just spreading his little potion of love around.
Yep.
Because this was an ability previously, but this is now how it is, which I really like.
Yep.
And they did remove this from the other Blight Lord, so it's only he can do this mortal wound splashing.
Yep. And then Master of the Rot Flies in any combat phase. If this unit charged this turn, pick up to 2 friendly Puscoil Blight Lords units wholly within 12 inches to be the targets, and you add 1 to the Rend characteristic of the target's companion melee weapons for the rest of the turn.
Mm-hmm. And so uniquely, to just kind of call it out, so you can have your Blight Lords already in combat, and then this guy charges in after that.
Yep.
Then he applies this ability to that unit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As always, this guy's awesome. He's a staple.
Yeah, with the movement, the power pairing with his Blight Lords, it's really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, and he's 220 points. And then when you use the Affliction Cyst, you can put him in the sky. which is great ability.
Yep, and then his regiment, he can only bring his boys. So
yep,
that's just another kind of package that you can do.
Yep. All right, the third of the trio, Orgoth's Demon Spew. 7 attacks on his rod axes with the same profile as everybody else. Otherwise, his Grasping Tongue. This is once per turn in the combat phase. You pick an enemy unit in combat, roll a die on a 3+, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Maggotkin of Nurgle units that target that unit for the rest of the turn. That's good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Your big attack here is already wounding on 2s, so this is like, I see this as this guy kind of slides in, tags multiple things in combat, and then gives the +1 to wound to the unit that he does not want to attack. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just something really big, like throw lots of stuff at it. But
I've been biting my tongue for one of my if Gut Rot is my favorite war scroll, my second favorite war scroll has to be the Blight Kings.
Yeah.
And we'll get there, but yeah, them together, basically you get him and the Kings, and whatever you're fighting is not going to be there for very long.
Yeah. And then his Acid Ichor, every time he saves on a 6 in combat, you inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacker.
Yep.
So that's always a solid ability. A lot of things historically have had that. It's always valuable.
Yep, just a bounce back mortal.
Yep. Lord of Blights. His hammer is 4 attacks at 3 damage and anti-charge +1 rend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Thrice Ripened Death Heads. Pick an enemy unit that charged this turn is in combat with him on a D3, 2 up, do mortal damage equal to the roll. Festering Bulwark. Effect: the blighted weapons used by Putrid Blight Kings have anti-charge +1 rend, while those units are wholly within 12 inches of them.
Yeah. He's so that the Death Head is replacing his shooting attack, and I was describing this to my opponent. It's basically, instead of giving a shooting attack, he's just gonna throw a grenade at you when you charge him.
Yep.
It's really cute. And then the Bulwark, notably, that's a pretty big aura, so he doesn't have to be he can just kind of be behind your Kings and just like giving out this ability, which I find really useful, because your Kings are going to be standing on circles.
Yeah, improving Blight King rend is no small thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of dice, quality attacks.
Yeah,
I'm excited to talk about it later.
Yeah, it took 3 editions, but we did it, guys. He's actually worth taking now.
He's so cute. I love him. And like I was saying, you can add a Lord to a lot of the regiments, and I think he's a great pickup if you're planning on just moving your Kings up the middle and just being a king of the hill.
Yeah. All right. Harbinger of Decay. His melee attacks exist. 8 move, 3 up save, 7 health. He is a priest. Once per battle, he can sound the Knell of Doom in the enemy hero phase. You pick up to 3 enemy units within 24 inches to be the targets. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the move characteristic of each target and subtract 1 from run and charge rolls for the target. That is going to be awesome in like not the first turn. Like when you want to deny your opponent valuable charges.
Yeah.
And that will also then stack with the spell that debuffs movement too.
Yeah.
So you can really like just bog down the enemy.
And don't forget, for a CP or maybe 2 CP, you can cast that spell in their hero phase.
Yup.
There's a few tricks you can pull out, but yeah, for sure. It's those 3-inch charges or just 4, like it adds up really quick. And then the last thing on his war scroll is his prayer that he doesn't get a lore, he just gets his one little prayer. But
Yeah.
I found it very valuable.
Yeah. It chants on a 4. You pick an enemy unit within 12. Subtract twice the current battle round number from the target's control score for the rest of the turn. If the chanting roll was 10 plus, this ability affects all enemy units within 12 inches.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And I'm going to remind everybody that you can bring this guy into a lot of chaos lists with his Regiment of Renown.
Yeah, you can.
And it's been we don't have that scroll in front of us, but it's been shown on the Goonhammer website. So the Regiment of Renown is 5 kings, this guy, and then 2 of the Blight Lords, which is the lords on the flies. And I've been describing it as just an excellent anchor piece in a lot of lists because it's the total cost is 540 if I remember correctly, which is 110 points less than if you were to bring those 3 units within our army. So you're getting some very quality war scrolls between the kings, the Blight Lords, and this guy. You're gonna get, so for 110 points cheaper, you're then gonna get a -1 to hit aura, as well as a heal 1 every phase or every turn, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a really valuable package. And the chanting roll, if just review it real quick, you're going to be kind of tallying his chanting number as you go along. So like you might not get that value 10 until turn 2 or 3, but that's when you're standing on the circle, your kings are controlling it because of the abilities on their war scrolls.
Yeah,
and it's just a solid anchor piece.
Yeah, you just you don't really need this ability in the first couple of turns anyway.
No.
So you're gonna go charge it, turn 3 or 4, you're gonna blow that off on the 10 plus, and it's just like, and I get all the objectives. Good night.
Yeah, and even if you needed that key phase, chanting value 4, super manageable turn 2. Like you're like, you know what? I just need this one thing to not be standing here anymore. Just turn it off.
Yeah,
I think it's a really great value in our own army. But then I just want to call out the Regiment of Renown because I think you're going to see that in a few places.
Yeah, because this is very good.
It's and the ranges on his abilities: 24 inches, 12 inches. He's a priest, so he can banish some stuff. He can. I had him my general because he could take the +1 movement aura. So he's moving 9. He's giving +1 to his friends, and a movement 9 running flat 6 if you spend the CP. Like he can get places he needs to get to mid game. So like you can run him around and then just like say it's my circle.
Yep.
I really like it. And also the new model is beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I am going to be entering one in Capital Palette this year.
I'm really excited to see it in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. It's coming up soon.
Yeah, I realized that it was like, 6 or 7 weeks away today. I'm like, crap, I really need to finish everything for that.
Yeah, I've seen some of the whip pictures. They look really great. You just want to add a few little details, but I think you're going to do excellent. This is your first time entering Capital Palette as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think you're going to... Do you have 2 of them? Are you going to have one in the cabinet and then one on the tabletop when you're playing?
I don't know.
Or are you just going to bring...
Well, actually, the second one has been rebased for Old World to be Nurgle Wizard on a Horse.
Or, just bring the 4 model army. The 3 Guos and the... That would be incredible at Nova. That is a great convention army. Just 4 big models.
Yep. All right, Rotbringer Sorcerer. He is a Wizard 1. Tainted Sorceries. In your hero phase, you pick an enemy unit that was just targeted by a spell that he cast. Roll a die. On a 2-up, subtract 1 from ward rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. That is situational.
Mm-hmm.
But man, if I just want a random cheap wizard on foot, I like him a whole lot better than I like the Poxbringer.
No, yeah, and he's just like a dude that can also do your heal spell. He like because you get access to all 3 spells, so a lot of he's a very nifty tool.
Yeah, and let's see what is Rotbringer sorcery is 120 points.
Yeah, kind of like the Poxbringer, who I think is also a wizard, like a little vanilla, but it's like in here and there, and good filler.
Yeah, and the Poxbringer is 130, so I think this guy is better for 10 points less.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so like it, not that complicated. Lord of Plagues, another guy that got a solid glow up.
Oh yeah.
He, as we said before, he adds 1 to charge rolls of Blight Kings. His attacks have crit mortals. And then in any combat phase, he can do the 7-fold slaughter. You pick a friendly Putrid Blight King unit that charged this turn. Roll a die on a 2+, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the target's blighted weapons for the rest of the turn.
Which is a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
And also you're kind of, again, that reliability. You're reducing the variance with the +1 to charge. Because, like, say you charge with the kings, and then you fail his charge, you don't care. You're just going to buff them up anyways. You're just like, go get them, boys.
Yep.
No, he's really solid. And like I said, there's a lot of Gut Rot, the Harbinger. You gotta just add a Lord to your regiment. So you just slot him in.
Yeah, really solid. Puscoil Blight Lords, 4 attacks, 3/3s, Rend 1, 1 damage, charge +1 damage. Hey guys, they're real cavalry now.
Yep, and that's the same ability that's on the Lord as well. The +1 damage on the charge.
Yep. And you add 1 to the Rend characteristic of his
of their weapons.
Yeah. If it characteristic for attacks that target units contesting an objective that you do not control. So these guys are great for clearing an objective that your opponent holds.
Yep. And like I said earlier, the combo wombo is they charge in, and then the Lord charges in, and now they're swinging with Rend 2 on their weapon and Rend 1 on the mouths. You're hoping to just pick those whatever's on there with volume and quality attacks.
Yeah. These guys are 250 points for 2 of them.
They are expensive, yeah. But they're 8 wounds, 4 up, 5 up.
Yeah.
They can heal with a spell, and hopefully you're hopefully charging, and then they're not swinging back at you, hopefully. But
yeah, definitely still solid. Have a solid roll. Putrid Blight Kings.
My second favorite war scroll.
3 up save, 3 health, 4 attacks each, 3/3s, Rend 1, 1 damage, and you add 3 to their control score. While each model in this unit is contesting an objective you control.
Yeah.
So 5 of these, they also have a standard bearer, so they're +1. 5 of these are counting as 9.
Yep. And that's a key kind of rules thing. So you do have to control the objective before this activates. So you cannot charge onto an objective that you don't already control and then get this. You kind of have to wait till the next turn to get this effect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but they're great for holding an objective.
Oh yeah, and they want to stand and get charged with the Lord of Blights behind them.
Yeah.
And the 3-up save, they got the Rend. The 3-inch reach is incredible.
Yeah.
And notably,
10 pack of these guys is terrifying.
Exactly. Notably, in our current GHB, it's a great Honor Guard unit.
Yeah, refresh me what Honor Guard does again.
I wish you didn't ask me because I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
But it's essentially Honor Guard, if I remember, and someone I'm sure will correct me, they get a +1 to either hit or wound when they are swinging against your opponent's honor guard. There's also a battle tactic kind of wrapped up in there, I believe.
Yep.
But the reason why I think they're also a great honor guard pick is because of that battle tactic. It's hard to remove this unit, so it kind of denies a battle tactic choice. Because the battle tactic, if I remember, it's like you have to kill something in that regiment. So either you're killing, in my case, the Harbinger, the Lord of Blights, who's behind all of that meat wall of 10 dudes.
Yep.
And then they get that, I forget if it's a +1 to hit or wound, but one of those modifiers. And I'm pretty sure it's the wound because I think I was rolling 2s and 2s with a lot of dice, and it felt real good with red 2 because they charged me.
Yeah, love it.
Oh, it just goes into the play style that I think this I think the designers hit it out of the park with how this army feels on the tabletop.
Yeah,
like they're super resilient. They can take the hit. They do a lot of ticking damage over time, and it's beautiful. I love it. I'm really excited to pull them off the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually in my carrying case right now. I got a game this weekend.
Yeah. All right, Rotmire Creed. Their blowpipes are 12 inches, 2 attacks, 4s, 3s, no rend, 1 damage, but crit auto wound, which is pretty good. And then their virulent concoctions, basically when you use your Blessed by the Plague Father ability to spread disease to one unit at the end of the turn, you can also choose a unit that your Rotmire Creed damaged instead of something that you're in combat with.
Exactly. And how I describe it to my opponent, like I'm going to deep strike them with Spume. With the 12-inch range, I'm getting old 20 shots at you, and I'm hoping I hit a 6 in there, and then I'm hoping you fail your save. There's dice involved, but essentially that when you get to the end of the phase to trigger your allegiance ability, it gives you an additional option. So like you don't need to be in combat range to select them to be diseased because they've got that little blow dart in their neck or however you want to think of it. So it just gives you that extra option, which is really great because then if you say you tagged something that's really hard to get to because your opponent did a great job screening, then in the next end of because it triggers in twice in the battle round, you can then choose the second option to spread from that target. Pretty cool when you blow dart Mr. Catacrys and then everything gets diseased. And
yeah. All right, and then we are back to the Feculent Gnarl Mob, which we already looked at. But, it's going to block the way for your opponent. And
there's a lot of smart players that are going to use it really well.
Yeah. Yep. It is. It's back to doing stuff.
I like it.
Instead of, like, you actually want it out in the middle of the field again. As it should be. I was always just putting him in the corners and close to one objective so I could do that battle tactic.
Yeah, and hoping no one comes over and turns off my summoning. And then also, I like how they extended the range to 6. I think it used to be 3.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's very good. Again, I don't want to pull up the core rule PDF because it's just really big. But can you deploy them anywhere on the table on the first one, or does it have to be in your? I'm pretty sure it has to be in your deployment zone.
I think it has to just be in your territory.
Territory, yeah.
Yeah. Important.
But then that's where the Horticulus is really good.
Yep. Yeah. So this is our last War Scroll. Mm-hmm. I really like this a lot. This book is really fantastic, I think. I'm really pumped for this.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how I built this yet. I need to go through and start putting the pieces together.
And that it's I said it earlier. I'm just really excited that it got more simple. I don't need to bring summoning if I choose not to go that way. I don't need to do the whole disease counting and tracking and making sure I remember if I rolled a 6 or not. It's a separate thing at the end. It's just a lot cleaner. And like you can choose to play it that more simple way, or you can choose to bring in more of the demons, the Guo list. I never thought that was a thing, but you're right. That's totally the thrice folds back, baby.
Yeah,
like there's lots of pieces with the Glocken. And then
with
like
Glocken and 2 Guos charging on your opponent's turn.
It's just a lot of like I said, packages and tools, and like I think a lot of players are starting to figure that out now. Like it's like you find these power pairs, or you find like something really efficient, and then there's players are starting to figure that out. But we're just in a really exciting time for Age of Sigmar, where no one really knows what's going on. It's that refresh of edition. It's a refresh of this is the first indexing of. I've been through 2 40k indexings, and it's always one of my favorite times to be playing Warhammer because it's a lot of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to start messing around with lists with this. I just not having the app yet is like I don't want to break out pen and paper. I don't want to break out a spreadsheet.
Nah, you do spreadsheets for work. You don't want to do that in your free time.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's like I said, it's the army in my carrying case. I'm planning on bringing that this weekend just to kind of rock around with it a little bit. I'm actually playing in Pittsburgh on the 20th at the Fabricators Forge, and I'm pretty set on bringing the Skaven with that Regiment of Renown. Because my gun line won't be ready. I'm going to still be building my blasters, and I'm hoping to bring a gun line Skaven to Nova Open. But yes, I think that's kind of where I'm going to start this edition, is just going back to Nurgle, which is I've chosen not to pick up for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just really happy to go on back to it. I'm really excited.
Worth noting in here as well, 2 things that they did not tell us in that article a while ago about things that were getting discontinued. We also lost Epidemius and lost Festus the Leech Lord.
Which, I recently picked up a Festus because like I didn't know what's gonna be here. But I mean, he's got to go to the old world. I'll paint him up. He'll be fine.
And he's on the same size base as a Rotbringer Sorcerer, so just play him as that.
You can do whatever you want, man. And it's like that's. And then also between the Underworld war bands, like we have a lot of really great models, excluding the 3D prints that you can find. There's Nurgle players are always extra creative, I found.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy having those options as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm not knowledgeable to speak on it, but just to cover our bases, another tool that we've not mentioned are the manifestations.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even sure what manifestation lore I would want to use this with.
I don't think we need a Kronspine. We do have the modified casting, which that's been what I've seen a lot of discussion in my team chat, is like, if you can get a plus to cast, it's kind of good to get the Kronspine to defend yourself early on, because there'll be a lot of experiments with the other manifestations, which there's Goonhammer articles. I know Plastic Crack has an article about them, and I haven't read into it all that much, but this is like another, because we are a wizard heavy army, like that'll just be kind of a free thing to add to our toolkit.
Yeah. And that's going to make that unlimited spell really valuable, because the number of times that I just have like 2 or 3 casters in my list.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be healing a lot and getting -1 to be wounded a lot.
And using the situational spells that you would in the last 2 editions would never have picked, because it's like, why would I do that when I'm gonna just pick the optimal choice, or the all-comers choice. Yeah, so the fact that we just have a deeper lore, then we also have manifestations on top of that. Like there's a lot of pieces to put together.
Yeah. Yep. I am looking forward to it. I'm sure I'm going to do a million more videos, on list building and figuring everything out. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be good times. Yeah, so I think we can call it there for now. We've done this for an hour and 34 minutes.
About an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we started a little later. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll see you at Nova Open.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all later.